Hannah is right. Working people do not want this. They want Democrats to be the real opposition party here, especially when it comes to starting a new war in the Middle East. Because again, we know how well that's worked out every other time we've tried it. And where's the liberal media on this? Why is it that Tucker Carlson is the one who is pressing Ted Cruz on our warmongering?
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup.
This is Ashley with Status Coup.
On the ground.
In Philadelphia.
Flint, Michigan. East Palestine, Ohio. Please support the leading independent news outlet on the ground.
Covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Ashley Bishop with Status Coup. President Trump, the anti-war candidate who promised to end global conflict because he is just that great of a negotiator, is pushing us closer to war with Iran under false pretenses. All in defense of Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. Again, we are considering entering a war to defend Israel's apparent right to commit a genocide to wipe innocent people off the face of the earth. And while pundits are talking about geopolitics and the pros and cons of a new war in the Middle East and whether this could bring an end to Iran's nuclear program, which has been just weeks and months away from completion since like 1995, they're not talking about the thing that they're always not talking about. Who will be most affected by a war anew in the Middle East? We will. Working people will. Who will be recruited to fight in this war if it escalates to the point of boots on the ground, to uphold again Israel's insatiable desire and apparent right to kill with impunity. Certainly not the sons and potentially the daughters, because who knows with this administration of those who will be voting on this. The billionaires and lobbyists and donors will sacrifice nothing, while you and yours will sacrifice everything. Not to mention the regular working people in Iran, and yes, in Israel too, whose lives are now in mortal danger. So this is from the Washington Post. Trump debates bombing Iran in pivotal moment for presidency. The decision could pull the U.S. into a major conflict or lead to the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. President Donald Trump faced one of the most monumental decisions of his presidency on Tuesday as he debated whether to join a war against Iran that risked sucking Washington into a new Middle Eastern conflict, but also offered the chance to eliminate a foe's nuclear program. In a string of social media posts across the day, the president said that the United States has complete and total control of the skies over Iran and warned Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei that he was an easy target and demanded unconditional surrender without defining what that would mean. As the day closed and after an 80-minute meeting with top aides in the Situation Room, he spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A White House official said, "The tough language came at a moment of extraordinary weakness for Tehran, whose power is at a low ebb following a year of Israeli attacks against its allies and proxies in the Middle East." Trump has long taken an aggressive approach toward Iran, although he also campaigned on ending global conflicts and as recently as last week continued to seek a new agreement to restrict its nuclear program. Trump's current posture could rebound in unpredictable ways. If he succeeds in wresting concessions from Iranian leaders to dismantle their nuclear program or destroys it by military force without provoking major retaliation, he could be hailed as a president whose unpredictable approach to foreign policy yields results. Mishandling the situation could pull Washington into a major conflict with dangerous and unpredictable consequences for U.S. citizens. And it could also lead to a nuclear-armed Iran if strikes fail and the government resolves to develop the nuclear weapon it has long declared it does not seek. No, just no. We've seen what Trump's unpredictability as far as foreign policy has wrought. How are those tariffs working out for everybody? Oh, they're not going well? You mean his wild recklessness has not yielded good results for us? How do we think an armed conflict in the Middle East with a reckless warmongering wannabe dictator is going to work out? I'm going to say probably not very well. So just to add what's been going on today, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei rejected President Trump's demand for unconditional surrender and warned that any U.S. military action would result in irreparable harm. Trump threatened Khamenei on Truth Social, but he said that the U.S. wouldn't take him out, at least not for now. This follows reports that Trump may be planning airstrikes on Iran, despite U.S. intelligence assessments reiterated by Tulsi Gabbard in March that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, which Trump dismissed, saying that, well, he just simply thinks that they are. Meanwhile, Israel has been bombing Iran for 6 consecutive days. Thousands of people have been displaced. Over 50 Israeli warplanes struck targets today, and Iran has retaliated with missiles and drones. At least 585 people have been killed in Iran and at least 23 in Israel, and hundreds more have been injured. On Monday, Senator Tim Kaine urged support for his war powers resolution to block a U.S. war with Iran. So here are the senators who have supported Tim Kaine's war powers resolution: Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Jeff Merkley, Chris Van Hollen, Ed Markey, Tammy Baldwin, and Tina Smith. So those are all the senators who have supported this anti-war resolution. And more on this from Tim Kaine. So here's what Tim Kaine had to say.
When I was elected to the Senate in 2012, having served as a governor from 2006 to 2010 during a tremendous upsurge in the two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, I visited our troops multiple times in the Green Zone in Baghdad and in Afghanistan. I went to the deployments and the homecomings. I went to the wakes and the funerals. And I told myself when I came to the Senate that if I ever had the chance to stop this nation from getting into an unnecessary war, I would do everything I could to stop us from getting into an unnecessary war. I happen to believe that the United States engaging in a war against Iran, a third war in the Middle East since 2001, would be a catastrophic blunder for this country. But I think we should all be able to agree that the fundamental constitutional principle that says we shouldn't be in a war if Congress doesn't have the guts to debate it and vote on it, we should all, having taken an oath to the Constitution, at least support the principle that war is something that should be for Congress to declare.
Yes, I think that we can all agree with Tim Kaine here. We should all support that principle that war is something that Congress, not President Trump by himself, should declare. Republican Thomas Macy introduced a similar resolution in the House. Congressman Macy introduces the Iran War Powers Resolution to prohibit U.S. involvement in the Israel-Iran war. U.S. Representative Thomas Macy introduced a resolution on Tuesday aimed at blocking American involvement in the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. Breaking with President Donald Trump, Macy, who represents Northern Kentucky, unveiled a bipartisan war powers resolution designed to prevent the United States from being drawn into the widening hostilities. This is not our war, Macy wrote, emphasizing that even if it were, decisions of this magnitude must be made by Congress in accordance with the Constitution. The most recent escalation began on Friday when Israel launched strikes on dozens of sites across Iran, targeting the country's nuclear infrastructure, air defenses, and high-ranking officials. Iran has since responded with its own military actions. According to Iran's ambassador to the United Nations, more than 220 Iranian civilians have been killed and 1,000 injured since the Israeli offensive began. The most recent escalation began on Friday when Israel launched strikes on dozens of sites across Iran, targeting the country's nuclear infrastructure, air defenses, and high-ranking officials. Iran has since responded with its own military actions. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Macy, known for diverging from party lines on foreign policy, is leading efforts to scale back U.S. military involvement and reaffirmed that any entry into the conflict must be authorized by Congress. The Constitution does not permit the executive branch to unilaterally commit an act of war against a sovereign nation that hasn't attacked the United States, Macy said in a statement on Tuesday. And here are the representatives in the House who are supporting Thomas Macy's war powers resolution: Thomas Macy, Ro Khanna, Rashida Tlaib, and AOC. And that is it. And on this, Ro Khanna had to say, Democratic platform should be peace abroad, good jobs at home. Our failure to grab the anti-war mantle and feckless comments by some of our leaders is exactly what's wrong with the party. Maybe if you're an elected official who cheered for the Iraq war, it is time for you to retire. I would agree. He went on to say, what in the world does this mean, Chuck Schumer? I believe Congress and Senate Democrats, if necessary, will not hesitate to exercise our authority. This is why your party numbers are toxic with our base. They want us to be the anti-war party again. And this is a quote from Tim Kaine. The American people have no interest in sending service members to fight another forever war in the Middle East. In terms of getting co-sponsors for his new resolution, a Kaine spokesperson said, Senator Kaine is in dialogue with colleagues. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer did not directly answer a question from MSNBC News about whether he supports the Kaine War Powers resolution, saying on Tuesday, I believe Congress and Senate Democrats, if necessary, will not hesitate to exercise our authority. I would echo Ro Khanna here and say, what does that mean? I have no idea what that means. Kaine has credibility on the issue as an outspoken voice for reining in presidential war powers under administrations of both parties. He led an effort in the Biden administration to return that authority to Congress after years of lawmakers ceding it to the executive branch, garnering bipartisan support for that effort. The majority of Democrats are missing in action, as always, barring the handful of representatives who are not routinely so. Kana is right. Working people do not want this. They want Democrats to be the real opposition party here, especially when it comes to starting a new war in the Middle East. Because again, we know how well that's worked out every other time we've tried it. And where's the liberal media on this? Why is it that Tucker Carlson is the one who is pressing Ted Cruz on our warmongering? So here is a clip from, again, Tucker Carlson.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's, it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
this is
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
So which is it, Ted Cruz? He did an excellent job here pressing back against Ted Cruz's ignorance. Though I will give credit to CNN, who did compile a video of all the times Netanyahu told us that Iran was close to having nuclear weapons. So let's play that video as well.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
Weeks away since 1996. There are some people who are watching this who have been born since then. They're manufacturing consent for a war they know that the working people of the world do not want to become cannon fodder for. A war, like I said in the beginning of this video, to defend a genocide. Not against a genocide, to defend a genocide. We are not on the right side of history here, and this administration is working so hard at this because it is becoming more and more difficult to obscure that fact. These people, this administration, have no respect for the sanctity of human life. From poisoning us, they're making it easier for companies to work us to death before replacing us with AI. They're disappearing people into modern-day concentration camps to scapegoat immigrants for the logical conclusion of 40 years of working-class neglect via neoliberal policy. You get the idea. Around 4,500 U.S. military died in the Iraq War. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians also died. Working people will always be the beneficiaries of the sufferings of war, and they know this and they do not care. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe to Status Coup News if you don't want to miss more of our reporting. And you can support our on-the-ground independent coverage by becoming a member of Status Coup at statuscoup.com/join. $5 a month is all it takes, but it means a lot to us. It enables us to be able to go out and cover all of these things like the anti-ICE protests that we've been covering both here and in LA. It also allows John Farina and I to do things like go to the Immigration Detention Center in New York City. So please, if you can, become a member of Status Coup at statuscoup.com/join. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.